In an interview a couple of years ago, Emma Stone revealed her outlook on exercise. She said, "I haven't worked out for a month and I'm proud of it. I like to do things I actually enjoy, like going for a swim. I had a trainer during Spider-Man and I discovered I have a deep-seated rage when I'm holding heavy weights over my head. That's not the kind of working out I want to do." Today I'm going to explore Emma Stone's outlook to see how we can be healthy without exercising. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Mahin and I'm a physiotherapist specialising in pain management based in the UK. On this channel we explore lifestyle strategies and tools to help create healthier and happier lives. In this video I'll talk about how we can remain healthy and active without having to exercise. So let's get into it. Firstly, I want to bring attention to what we usually think of when we hear the word exercise. We usually think of formal exercise such as going to the gym, going for a run, playing sports or doing an exercise class. But it is possible to be healthy without doing any of these things. From what we know about our ancestors, they didn't hang out in crowded gyms repeatedly lifting weights for an hour at a time a few days a week, or go for a morning run before heading out to hunt or gather for the day. This was also the same for us in childhood. Our exercise or physical activity was based around informal movement and play. We never used to think, oh, you know what? I need to do some exercise. As we've developed in the modern age and throughout our own lifetimes, we've become more sedentary. With the majority of jobs now being desk-based and with our main source of entertainment being watching the TV, we frantically look for ways to stay active that usually feel unnatural to us. And this is why it's really difficult to remain consistent with these formal forms of exercise that I mentioned earlier. Now, of course, it's absolutely fine if you enjoy going to the gym and you're able to sustain this for a long period of time. But don't be fooled that this may be enough to counter sedentary time. Going to the gym for an hour 3 times a week and thinking that is enough movement for the week can severely impact our health if we're sedentary for the remaining 165 hours. We really need to start thinking of movement and activity as a daily and regular thing, rather than something we go and do a few times a week. I mean, we wouldn't only eat or sleep for 1 hour 3 times a week now, would we? If you're anything like me, going to the gym feels like a need rather than a want, and that's the reason I cancelled my gym membership. I found that aiming to go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week as my life got busier just wasn't sustainable, and I ended up feeling really guilty and self-loathing when I failed to meet that aim. The World Health Organization recommends that we get at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity physical activity throughout the week. Now that's roughly about 22 minutes a day. Not a lot when you think that moderate intensity exercise includes things like walking, cycling or playing with your kids. They also recommend building strength on at least 2 days a week, and this doesn't have to be lifting weights, but it could be things like carrying heavy shopping bags, gardening or yoga. And you only have to look at Okinawa in Japan, one of the world's blue zones where the longest living and happiest people in the world live, to see the value of moderate exercise. People there who live beyond the age of 100 report walking daily and attending to their vegetable gardens every single morning. There's absolutely no gym going or running there. It's all regular, moderate intensity exercise throughout the day and throughout the week. The amount of time that they spend sedentary is also a lot lower than other parts of the world as well, and there's no surprise that that's one of their secrets to living a long and happy life. So what does this look like for you? To round up and add some insurance onto your daily movement, let's say you do 30 minutes a day. Where does this 30 minutes exist in your life? What excites you and fits into your daily life the easiest? And it doesn't have to be 30 minutes all at once, it can be spread throughout the day as well. Ultimately, it shouldn't feel like you need to do it, it should be something that just happens without even having to think about it. I've taken the following tips on habit formation from the book Atomic Habits by James Clear. This is a great book for anyone looking to build some habits and even break old habits as well. I'll leave a link to the book in the description below, and James Clear talks about 4 ways to make a habit stick, and the 4 principles are to make it easy, to make it obvious, to make it satisfying, and to make it rewarding. So I'm going to talk about each of those now. Firstly, for a habit to be formed, it needs to be easy to do, and we need to be able to take the path of least resistance. Now this is where we go wrong a lot of the time with habits. We try to do something that's so big, it overwhelms us, and it's just not sustainable to stick to. So I'll give you an example. Let's say that somebody wants to go to the gym 4 times a week, okay? Now, I'm using the example of a gym because this is typical of what we do in January when we think about our New Year's resolutions, and we're coming up to January soon, so it's probably something that we're all going to do. So let's say that our aim is we want to build a habit to go to the gym 4 times a week. But at the moment, we're not even going to the gym once, okay? It's a very, very big jump to go from where we are now to where we want to get to. Now, the principle of making it easy basically says it should be something that's almost so easy to do, you can't not do it. So James Clear talks about a 2-minute rule for any habit that you're trying to form. And what he says is that with any habit you're trying to form, only do it for 2 minutes initially. Don't even try to do it for longer than that. So what this might actually look like, and bear with me because I know it might sound a little bit pointless initially, is actually trying to just turn up to the gym. So maybe just even turning up to the gym once a week. Turning up to the gym once a week for 2 minutes, and that is the aim. That is what you aim to do initially. Now, when that's a goal, first of all, it's easier to achieve that goal so that you can get an instant reward from actually achieving it. But secondly, when we start off with something small, it's very easy then to progress up. If we're starting with something big and going 4 times a week and we don't achieve that, then we're just going to feel bad and guilty about not being able to do that thing. So it's really important to get that positive feedback loop going and actually starting off with something small, achieving that something small, forming the habit first, and then building on that habit and improving it. It's really important that we focus on reducing the amount of friction that it takes to do the thing that we want to do. So another example of making something easy might be keeping your yoga mat out at home when you want to try and do some yoga. It might also be that we keep healthier foods at the front of our cupboards or on display so that it's easier to choose that option than the other options. The second part of habit formation is making the habit obvious. Now this is deciding where in your life that habit is going to exist. And this might be certain times within the day that you look to do that habit, or it might be that you associate that habit with another already formed habit. So for example, brushing your teeth is already a habit, so it might be that you tag your desired habit onto the end of that because you know that at set times every day you are going to brush your teeth. So rather than trying to remember to do the habit at any other time in the day, tag it onto another habit. Okay. Another thing that you might want to do is set an alarm so that it notifies you that it's time to do the thing that you want to do. The other part of making a habit obvious is by creating the optimal environment for that habit to take place. So that might be that if you want to go for a run, then you keep your running shoes right next to the door and it's the first thing that you see when you come down the stairs in the morning. You might also want to get your clothes out for your workout the previous night, so that again, it's the first thing that you see when you wake up. For diet changes, it might be that you don't buy any of the unhealthy foods that you're trying to cut out. So by not even having that in the kitchen and not having that as an option to turn to, it's much less likely that we consume those foods because we're actually creating more friction between us and the food. On the flip side of that, we might actually have more healthier options on our shopping list and at homes so that when we are hungry, it's easier to turn to those options because there's a lot less friction there. So remembering with all of these habits, it's about reducing the amount of friction between yourself and the habit. I've done a previous video on how to make habits stick, so I will pop a link to that in the description as well below. It's probably a good one to watch after this. One of the things I talk about in that video is the positive feedback loop. Now the last 2 concepts of habit formation are to make it satisfying and make it rewarding. So I'll talk about both of those together. Now for all habits, we have a cue, we have a routine, and then we have a reward. And understanding what the cue is that triggers the routine to happen and what the reward is after is really important in influencing our habits, whether that's forming new ones or breaking old ones. So when we're trying to form new habits, we don't always have to create new cues and new rewards. We can just replace the routine of a habit we're already doing that's less desirable with a routine of a more desirable habit that might be healthier as well. So if I use smoking as an example, when we get that craving that we want to have a cigarette, instead what we do is we do some push-ups, which releases chemicals similar to that we get when we have had a cigarette, but it's obviously more healthier for us and we get a similar reward to it. The other thing is, like me, I've had to cut out coffee after midday because it disrupts my sleep. So sometimes what I'll do, if I do get a craving, is I'll just have a decaf version of my coffee. Again, not too late because decaf does have some caffeine in it, but yeah, it's just better than actually having the full caffeinated version. And I actually get the same benefit. I don't know whether a lot of that's because it's psychological, that I'm actually having a coffee that tastes like coffee, but it satisfies the craving and I get the reward that I want. The other way of making habits more satisfying and rewarding is by actually doing them with other people. So by joining a community or a group that shares the desired habit that you're trying to form is a really, really helpful way of making a habit stick. And that's because you have accountability of other people in that group who also want to do the thing, and then by not showing up you feel like you're letting that person down, or you know that someone else is going to know that you're not sticking to your habits, but also just for the sense of enjoyment. So you get an immediate relief and reward when you're doing things with other people because you're sharing that value, and it just really creates that good sense of community that we know is so important. So people always ask me what the best form of exercise is, and I always tell them the best form of exercise for you is the one that you didn't even think about doing. And what I mean by this is exercise should be something that's fun. And the word exercise mentioned earlier is usually associated with those more formal types of exercise. And if you don't enjoy those types of exercise, that might not be the right one for you. We don't have to do those forms of exercise to be healthy. It's actually a lot better for longevity to have moderate exercise throughout the day and throughout the week, rather than doing, the odd hour here and there and then being sedentary for the rest of the week. It's much better to have those moderate levels of activity going on at all times. So if you don't like the gym, if you don't like running, don't worry. You don't have to do those things. Remain active and do the things that you want to do. Think back to when you were a child. What did you used to do? What did you enjoy doing as a form of play? Can you maybe incorporate some of that into your adult life? Maybe it might be things like taking the stairs rather than taking the escalator or the lift, or it might even be standing at a standing desk, doing a few squats throughout the day, or taking regular walks. Whatever it might be, make sure that it's something you enjoy, because you're much more likely to do it and it's going to be more sustainable in the future. Have a think about those ideas around forming habits, and I'll leave you with the video on how to make habits stick now for you to watch next. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you next week.